If you are engaging volunteers at your organization, you need a plan for recognizing them. This short video introduces the fundamentals of volunteer recognition to help you develop appropriate ways to recognize and thank your volunteers. My name is Erin Barnhart. As President of Effective Altruism, I help organizations worldwide develop more effective volunteer engagement. I also teach volunteer management to VISTA members. Suffice it to say that I am passionate about meaningful, effective volunteer mobilization. Now let's talk briefly about learning goals. By the end of this video cast, I'd like for you to be able to describe why volunteer recognition is important, identify several recognition strategies and show how they support volunteer motivation, and select recognition activities that fit your budget, capacity, and needs of your volunteers. At first glance, it might seem that recognizing volunteers is not that important, given all the demands on an organization. But there is ample evidence that recognition really matters to the success of a volunteer program. Specifically, volunteers who feel valued and appreciated are more likely to feel more of a connection to and ownership of the organization and its mission. When volunteers have a strong relationship with the organization and its mission, they can also then become excellent community ambassadors and potential recruiters of new volunteers. Volunteers who feel valued and appreciated also tend to commit more time and energy to roles and projects. Likewise, as they develop trust with the organization over time, they may also take on roles with even greater responsibility. Lastly, volunteers who feel appreciated are likely to stay longer with an organization. This is critical because retaining high-quality volunteers takes significantly less time and fewer resources than finding, matching, training, and building relationships with new volunteers. So there are lots of reasons why recognition matters. In fact, without recognition, a great volunteer opportunity can turn into a negative experience. While the vast majority of folks do not volunteer specifically to be thanked, they will notice when they are not recognized. This happened to me. A group of friends and I volunteered at a Valentine's Day dance for adults with developmental disabilities. It was an amazing night. We had so much fun and really felt like we had an impact. Yet, at the end of the night, as we were bubbling over with inspiration and enthusiasm, the volunteer manager just walked up to us and flatly said, "Once you sweep up, you can go ahead and leave." It took all of the energy right out of the room. We were crestfallen. Not because we needed the thanks, that isn't why we showed up, and it didn't change the positivity of our experience, but it was just so deflating to be treated like a function rather than a team. Keep this in mind when you consider recognition as a part of your volunteer management practices. It's important to know that recognition is more than just a thank you. It's important to say thank you, of course, but that's not enough. So let's look at other ways of recognizing volunteers. One of the main reasons people volunteer is the desire to make a difference or to give back. Many people are seeking meaning in their lives, and volunteer service that makes an impact is one way to find it. Therefore, it's important that recognition includes some acknowledgement of the impact the volunteers have made. After all, while they're not being paid, they will almost certainly want to know their service has some tangible value. It is crucial that volunteers always know why they are important to the mission of the organization and how they have made an impact. This is especially true for those roles that might be a bit more behind the scenes. Do you have people stuffing envelopes for the day? Make sure they know why this matters. For example, by stuffing these envelopes, you are helping us to reach more potential donors, which, in turn, can lead to more funds to help accomplish our mission. Connect the dots for them so that they can clearly see how their individual actions have helped move the needle. Another motivation is a personal connection to or passion for an issue or a cause. For example, many volunteers get involved with health organizations like the Cancer Society or Heart Association because they or someone they love is affected. Personal connections to specific issues are powerful motivators. Meaningful recognition for such volunteers would help them see how they have personally helped to make a difference for someone, how they have improved the lives of others. Some people volunteer so they can develop new skills or practice existing skills, as well as explore a career path. This is a powerful motivator for those just starting off in their careers, for example, students and recent graduates, as well as individuals who are between jobs and want to keep their skills sharp. To recognize volunteers with this type of motivation, offer them new opportunities as they become more experienced, so they can continue to learn new skills and strengths and to prevent them from becoming bored. Socializing and meeting people is another powerful reason to volunteer, especially for folks who are new to a community or who might be experiencing a bit of isolation. Volunteering is a great way to meet others in structured activities, which can make it a little less awkward to meet new people. Recognition for such volunteers could highlight the relationships and trust you have developed with your volunteers, affirming them as individuals and the value they have provided. It could also take the form of social activities that would allow them to meet and socialize with a broader circle. Lastly, don't underestimate the importance of having fun. Volunteering can be a great way to contribute time and energy to a worthy cause while also doing something enjoyable. Some people looking to volunteer will be doing so just in the pursuit of fun. While these are just a few of the more common volunteer motivations you might encounter, it's important to note that these are not mutually exclusive. Someone might be seeking to gain professional skills in a fun way at an organization with which they have a personal connection. Different volunteers will be motivated by different factors. For example, students may be interested in developing professional skills more than retirees are. Don't assume, though. You likely won't know why someone is volunteering unless you explicitly ask. Which leads us to the bottom line. It is vital that you get to know your volunteers to learn more about what motivates them. Explore the reasons they came to volunteer and keep this in mind as you identify effective, meaningful ways to engage them as partners and recognize their efforts. So how do you go about getting to know your volunteers? First and foremost, ask them how they would like to be recognized. Understanding what they would like is important because for some people, public recognition would be an honor, while for others, it could be embarrassing. Also ask, what would be meaningful for them? For example, for someone considering a career in social work, an opportunity to meet with the director of case management may be the best kind of recognition they could receive. For someone new to the area, a social event where they can meet new people might be more meaningful. If you have a small volunteer population, ask these questions one-on-one, preferably as part of the interview process. However, if you have lots of volunteers, a simple online survey might be a more practical way to gather this information. Either way, be sure to store this information in a way that allows you to keep track of each volunteer's preferences. A few things to consider as you plot out your volunteer recognition options. First, what is your budget for recognition? Some options, like handwritten cards, are relatively inexpensive, while others, annual parties or social gatherings, can require significantly more resources. Make sure you have the funds needed for the types of recognition you'd like to offer. Next, consider your capacity for recognition activities. What can you reasonably take on, given the scope of your other work? Be sure to engage fellow staff members in recognition activities as well, especially organizational leadership. Not only will this take some of the pressure off you, it also helps to create an organizational culture of valuing volunteers from top to bottom. Lastly, be sure to identify ways you can recognize those volunteers with whom you may not regularly interact. For example, you may need specific ways to recognize your online volunteers, board members, or those independent entrepreneurial volunteers. Now, let's get into some specific ideas for volunteer recognition. Keep in mind that you'll likely want to offer more than one form of recognition, since volunteers will have different motivations and preferences for how they'd like to be acknowledged. We'll start off with a personal thanks. Whether in the form of a handwritten thank you card, a thoughtful email, or a verbal thanks, this is a good option for everyone and is frequently cited as a most valued way to be recognized. It's simple, personal, and cost-effective. If your organization serves clients, a card or note from someone who has benefited from the work of your volunteer can be especially meaningful. If your organization serves children, drawings by young people can have a big impact. Make sure that people who are important to the volunteer, including senior management, sign the card. Also, don't underestimate the personal thank you. Engage fellow staff to thank volunteers informally whenever they see them. Keep the appreciation going on a daily basis and reinforce your organization's culture of gratitude, leading to staff, board members, volunteers, and others, all feeling valued and central to the work of the organization. Another popular option is a recognition event or social activity. This can be especially valuable for people who are volunteering primarily to meet others and make friends. It's also a great opportunity to bring together volunteers, board members, and staff who otherwise might not get to interact. Events can be more expensive and potentially difficult to get a great turnout though, so be sure to gauge interest before planning. Also, consider some ways to potentially boost attendance by handing out awards, raffling off donated items, and asking staff and board members to participate, as well as recognizing them too. A third, lower-cost option is hosting monthly networking events or professional development trainings. This can be valuable for students and job seekers. Plus, events that focus on topics related to the mission of the organization can be engaging opportunities for those who are passionate about the cause. Also, for volunteers who are early in their careers or changing jobs, an especially valuable form of recognition is a letter of recommendation. A letter not only provides them with individualized recognition of their efforts, it gives them a valuable asset that can help their career. Yet another option is a public thank you in your organization's newsletter, on the website or social media, or in a local newspaper. This can be a great way to thank those who don't mind the public nature of this kind of recognition. Plus, it is a form of community outreach to let others know about your organization and the work that it does. Certificates of thanks are another simple, cost-effective way to formalize a thank you. Be sure to ask folks first if this would be valuable, though, so that it doesn't just become something to be recycled. Lastly, many organizations choose to offer volunteers some kind of recognition item, like a t-shirt, water bottle, lapel pin, or gift card. While some volunteers would prefer that the organization's dollars be spent on the mission, t-shirts and pins can be a nice way to thank volunteers while also creating visibility for the organization. To summarize, we've looked at why volunteer recognition is important not only to the volunteers, but to the organization where they serve. Recognition can take many forms beyond a simple thank you, and it should match the motivations and preferences of your volunteers. Most importantly, volunteer recognition should be meaningful. And as we've seen, there are so many ways to do this. To learn more, reach out to other Vistas to see how they recognize their volunteers, especially if they are at organizations that are similar to yours. For additional learning, check the listing below this video to find a few more volunteer recognition resources. Thank you for watching. Good luck with your continued service, and here's to honoring and acknowledging our invaluable volunteers.